Welcome to Gray Overload. And I want to talk a little bit about Windows here and what has been coming. There's been a huge push from Microsoft and Windows to be Copilot plus PCs on ARM, and that be the feature. It seems like Microsoft wants to be ARM to be the future. Now, that could be, I'm all for competition as long as you put out a good product. Let's see what ARM can do. Right now, though, ARM is limited to Qualcomm, and these Qualcomm chips just don't seem to be where they need to be to compete even with Intel and AMD and where they're at, yet they're the only ones getting features here. Now, I have some concerns about what Microsoft is doing here with their Copilot Plus, and I've gone over some of the Copilot Plus stuff. If you're going to have an AI PC and you kind of want this to take off and you want AI to be a center point, limiting to just the Qualcomm stuff just to be able to say ARM is taking off, I do not think is the right strategy right now, and I think that could actually, in the end, hurt Microsoft's AI ambitions and even the ARM ambitions of their PC. I think what they need to do is they should have been slow rolling this. Yes, ARM has been out and having ARM PCs since Windows 8, but Microsoft has a problem here. It is not ironed out enough to be able to show off that ARM PCs are the next thing. I am more than willing to test on an ARM PC and have it running. I mean, if they had something, well, in the let's say framework, and I was able to swap out it, I'd be willing to try it. I am more willing to deal with bugs than a lot of other people. From what I've seen and looked at, I think there needs to be a lot of, wait and see if I'm recommending a laptop to somebody right now and they're considering the ARM. I'd still stick with Intel and AMD. And if you're on the gaming side of things, you have that integrated GPU that just is not up to snuff, and it seems like Qualcomm doesn't have their dev side uh, pipeline worked out enough so that developers can help them fix or report bugs in that area. So there is a huge problem here. Now, if Microsoft were to take a different approach, I think it'd be a lot more successful and slow build these up to get them out to being a product where a lot more people be comfortable with and have a more stable OS with it, right? We know there's going to be bugs, especially as you continue to roll this out in more of a mass production. At least I hope Microsoft knows that. I mean, I deal with software all day, right, as a developer, and we know that as a product gets more and more traction, more and more users, there'll be more and more bugs because users will access or use the code in a slightly different way and expose those bugs, which is good, and we'll get those fixed and we can roll those into a patch and get that fix out to the users. Now, Microsoft's approach here seems to be we need to get this out to everyone. Everyone needs to be using on ARM, and this is the future. And they're forgetting the part that they need to fix the bugs and get this out. We've seen now, I want to include, Intel and AMD in here too, is that AMD's, Zen 5, Zen 4, and Zen 3 have some issues with scheduler on Windows. And this is one of those things where it's just a slight bug, right? It only does like 10% performance, right? Just slight. And here we are. That's something that could have happened on ARM as well. And do we know if this is going to be the case? No, we're going to need a lot more testing. Or do we know if something's going to slip in? What Microsoft needs to do is really focus on the quality of their software. Get that kernel right. Get those bugs fixed and kind of slow roll this out. So as Qualcomm and others, hopefully we'll see some of these ARM producers, maybe NVIDIA, maybe an AMD, maybe a Samsung, maybe even Microsoft themselves, right? MediaTek, all these other companies that produce ARM chips be into Windows and get those in Windows devices as well. I think that we'll have a much better success. But I think everyone else, Microsoft having an exclusive period with Qualcomm, is actually helping everybody. And I think Qualcomm's going to take a hit to their name since they're not getting this 100% ironed out. The benefit though for that, let's say an NVIDIA or an AMD has, they have their own graphics and they already have had their graphics. So adding a CPU on, they know their drivers are a lot more rock solid. The games are tested a lot more rock solid than the games that ARM's having to deal with currently today on their GPU. And just look at what Intel entering the GPU market. That was a lot of effort. And I think Intel is still ahead of where Qualcomm is. And the Microsoft approach to this was not the smartest approach. I don't think ARM is there yet. I don't think the Qualcomm is there yet. I think that what Microsoft needed to do, as I've said before, is slow roll this out and let certain users just say, oh, that sounds there, and don't have these lofty goals, and don't restrict Copilot Plus just to that, because I think that that's also hurting your AI ambitions, and you want to hit while AI is hot, Microsoft, and it's just a Microsoft thing, right? Let's get out there and let's either be too early or make sure that we don't capitalize on the hype when we get this out and there. So I think that there's still some hype to AI here currently right now, but it seems like Microsoft, oh yeah, those AMD chips now and the upcoming Lunar Lake ones, I think as well, will get Copilot Plus. Those will be later this month, and you announced this months ago, and people are just continuing to forget about it while you're pushing the ARM. And I don't think Copilot Plus was enough to just have people to go out and sell an ARM device at the price they're at, when you could get the Intel or AMD one that was pretty close in performance, didn't have the Copilot Plus, but for 800, 700, $800, which was a lot better than the $1,200 that it was going for. So I just don't see how they were approaching this and thinking this is a great idea. We're going to approach it like this, and it's going to be out in everybody's hands. We're going to force everybody to do this, and we're just going to kind of slow roll this. To me, it was a backwards thing to do, and some of the stuff I'm hearing and seeing is that it wasn't the best approach. And if we know Microsoft for one thing, getting the approach right to something is not their specialty. Usually that comes from a company they buy, and then they destroy it right there and there. But my big thing right now is Microsoft, I know you want to add a lot of features to Windows, and I know you want ARM to take off. In fact, I'd like to see an ARM PC. You remember when the Surface Pro came out with the ARM chip, Surface Pro X, I was actually wanting to get one to see how it all performed. I never was able to get one, didn't have the funds for it, but that's one thing I really wanted to try out. I think that the pairing of a GPU, if you can do that, and ARM can get the CPU cores just to run right with the games, might be a good solution. Yeah, let's say you can get an NVIDIA 4050, or what is it, their MX, what is it, 400 or whatever GPU in there, along with an ARM CPU, might not be a bad pairing. Now, I don't know if that's all possible technically right now, or if there's contracts preventing that. But if you were to start putting little chips like that, and people were able to be introduced with the ARM core with a GPU that they know will play the games, and as long as the CPU is able to execute, even if it's, emulated, I think that would be a really great option, Microsoft. Now, we'll see if the Xbox is going to go to ARM. I think if they did that, I think if Microsoft goes to ARM on the Xbox, it's going to be the end of the Xbox hardware in the future. I don't think, in the current state of where they're at, I do not think that this is going to be a future that Microsoft wants. Now, if, let's say, 5 years and ARM finally gets their act together on or Qualcomm at least on the GPU side, and we get it out there, that could be an option. Also, if NVIDIA or AMD were the ones providing the graphics IP, and they could actually design the ARMs, they get an ARM license. On the ARM side, the ARM cores, I think that's a solution also. But right now, if they're just going to take the Qualcomm chip and be like, this is going to be the Xbox, we're going to be a bigger GPU on it, I think that would be a cause for disaster. And I would highly recommend Microsoft to reconsider, because I don't think people will be willing to make that jump. Because if they buy a Xbox gaming box, which is supposed to be what, plug and play, and they just go down that route and it is not plug and play and you have to jump through hoops, they're not backwards compatible with other games that are already on, Xbox, Xbox One, Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, right? If those are all not able to be played, not backwards compatible, or a significant chunk, I think that would severely hurt Microsoft's ambitions in the Xbox hardware side. Now, maybe Microsoft doesn't care, but I think if they're really focused on getting ARM into more people's and having it a successful platform, that is one area where they could do it slowly. I would say even an ARM handheld, that would be a great option. You get some better battery life. You're competing with AMD and Intel in that space for ultra low powered. That could be a really interesting ability there. I think you still need to have, probably an AMD graphics card unless Qualcomm really picks up their game. But that would be an interesting solution there. So I think there's a lot of successful or a lot of potential in ARM's future. I just hope that Microsoft doesn't kill it off. And by what I mean by that, by not executing a plan properly, and just like they've done a lot of other stuff where they've just decided to go not think things through when they're releasing and just destroy the product before it even has a chance to take off. If they can do that, I think there could be some success here. So, you know, in what I'm talking, in one of kind of overview and ending this on is that, I think, where Intel and AMD are right now is they're, even Nvidia, they're kind of sitting there waiting. I think at some point Intel would probably also design ARM core. It just might be a little hard for them. They've had some struggles here as of recent. And, let's say Nvidia or AMD get an ARM core out, I think that might be um, a bigger swing, especially for a lot of the graphics side capabilities than where Qualcomm's at. If Qualcomm's not committed to getting that pipeline done to get those bugs all fixed in their drivers and in their software. Now, I'd also like to see, others than just Qualcomm here producing. Let's say it's a Samsung. Let's say it's um, a MediaTek. I think those would be another option there as well. And if you can start your pairings with different like GPUs, that'd be kind of cool too. Yeah, you'll have your integrated, but people are going to want a gaming laptop as well. And if they can make a socketed one, I think I'd be more than willing to try a socketed desktop, here as well. People are saying, oh, there's a Mac Mini competitor. We got Intel Nooks, right? They're competing. You see the Asus Nook that's just coming out with a Copilot button, of course. But there's options there, and I just don't. Everyone's hyping over ARM, and then you get to the gaming part, and they're like, "Oh yeah, if you're doing anything like that, take a step back." I think the approach to ARM right now needs to be, you know what, you need to take a step back and just continue to work on the software, get it out, and make sure that there's no crashes. Crashes are minimal, and it's rock solid. I think if you do that, and people have success with it, especially people like me that are into tech, and they get one and they like it, there'll be more people talking about this as an option for you. However, if you go the other way and people are buying it at stores and they're having a horrible experience, Qualcomm's name is going to be tarnished, and it's going to be harder for them to get over the hump, especially for what Microsoft wants. So that's my thoughts on this Windows and ARM and where Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA sit with it. But let me know what your thoughts are on the ARM side too. I really hope that they are able to hit this, correct the path, and get this going, because I always enjoy another competitor in the market. But some of the stuff I'm seeing is that just Microsoft stuff of just hurting the product when it doesn't need to be hurt. So leave it in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit a bell icon, and watch another one of my videos, as it really does help out the channel. I want to thank you so much for watching. I do really appreciate it. Till next time, God bless.